Welcome to Rugby League Down South. Coming up on this week's programme, New London Broncos Head of Youth Performance Darren Higgins on the challenge ahead. We head to Hemel for a Southern derby with Oxford Rugby League. Here's Stags coach Troy Perkins on their victory, Oxford coach Tony Benson on their second half comeback, and former London Broncos prop Carl Tamata, who is at the game as he returns to playing in this country. We also get more details of the game's growth from Oxford's managing director. If you haven't found this podcast home on totalrl.com, I'd encourage you to go and have a look. Plenty of the interviews, features, content and highlights on the website, including stuff in their podcast section. So head to totalrl.com where you can find this Rugby League Down South podcast each week. Now, a tweet that I saw on Monday from Mason Caton Brown on Twitter. Train got cancelled, fell in a puddle, small lake, he says, lost a £20 note all in 20 minutes. Some good luck soon, he says. Hashtag wet feet, Mason Caton Brown. One of the people involved in Broncos game at Hull KR on the weekend. Unfortunately, it didn't end in a positive result for them, but it did for the under-19s. A few weeks ago, the London Broncos announced that Darren Higgins was going to be their new head of youth performance, replacing the post that was held by Phil Jones for the last 15 years. Now he's settled in as Darren, with his feet well and truly under the desk. I thought I'd have a chat with him. And like I said, comes in a good week too with the under-19s winning. John Keys, the father of Joe Keys, who plays on the 19s, tweeting, Joe Keys scores a hat-trick as at Hull KR, as Broncos Academy win 46-24. Great result for them. Great result for Joe. And John, I saw a tweet where he had hashtagged proud dad, and I'm sure he was. A 46-24 win for the Broncos Academy at Hull KR. So here is the new head of youth performance, Darren Higgins, on his job, his time, and what lies ahead. Darren, well, I suppose you're a few weeks, if not a few months into this post now. How's it going?
Yeah, a couple of weeks into the post now, and things are going really well. The under-19s had a great win at KR on Sunday. The 16s are playing a fixture against Hull FC this week on Thursday. Made a few changes to the programme, just on top of the great work what people like Danny Ward, John Keys, James Lawson, Chris Reynolds and Hugh Goodwin were doing as volunteers, really. When the club was suffering with off-field problems, those guys kind of held everything together as volunteers and part-time staff. So, yeah, just building and supporting the great work that they're doing, and things are moving forward at a good rate. What have you done differently? Made a few changes in terms of coaching personnel and the way giving some advice around structures and planning of training sessions with both the scholarship and the under-19s. We've brought all things together a bit more in terms of the medical provision, strength and conditioning. Again, there was some great work going on, but because the club were missing someone in a full-time role, just kind of aligned all that together a little bit more. And likewise, in terms of the culture and the standards and expectations of the players, just tighten that up a little bit, really. As I say, the coaches and the staff were doing a fantastic job, but without any real support from the club in the sense of the head of youth. So I think when initially everything got started again, after all the off-field problems, it was a case of it was a minimum operation and everybody were just pleased to get going again. But the things like induction programs and code of conduct and clear standards and expectations at the start of the year were probably not addressed. So that's been a big thing, and just trying to create a bit more of a professional environment, following on the great work what Phil Jones did last year. But naturally, a few things fell away with the head of youth post and the player performance manager post being vacant.
And how big a job is it? You've obviously done a similar role up at Sheffield Eagles, but how big a job or how different a job is it at London, or is it very similar?
The job's similar, I suppose, with different challenges. The biggest eye-opener for me since I've been in post is the distance that players and parents will travel, for example, just to get to training. We've got lads who make a 2-hour journey just to get to training. But yeah, the post itself very similar. I suppose what we've not got is the luxury of being able to just nip into other areas and do talent ID and recruitment. In that sense, we've got what we've got in our own back garden. But I've got to say, I've been really impressed with the London Junior League and the community clubs and the standard of players and coaching. So yeah, a very similar job in many ways, but with different type of challenges, I'd say.
What is the plan for you, or what is the plan for the academy to develop it in the future? You obviously saw potential. You obviously saw it as a challenge of something that you could bring your expertise towards. I mean, where you're looking to take this academy and this young setup at Broncos?
I think for the rest of this year, it's just a case of kind of consolidation and running things the best we can for the rest of the season. And then when we get to kind of September time, it's starting to look at becoming a bit more strategic and how we can influence player and coach development in the community club environment. We'd like talking at the moment about putting some player development activity for under 13s and 14s, so we can get more coaching hours into local players at those kind of age groups and have more of an influence of them at that age group before they get to scholarship age, and that'll kind of complement a more strategic approach to talent ID, which will be systematic, and that'll be linked in with the London Origin series. And internally, just trying to raise the bar in terms of the standards, the coaching, the number of hours we get to the players. One thing under consideration is at the moment is possibly relocating the academy, which is based at London at Feltham, whereas the club are based obviously in Barnet. So there's a bit of a disconnect between the youth setup and the club in general. So that's probably something we're wanting to get a lot closer as well, and have more. I suppose the younger players have more access to first-team coaches, first-team players, and it's more of a club environment, which makes that transition so much easier when players progress from the 19th environment into the first team.
When you'd gone through your interview process with Broncos and things were being put into place, I had a few messages from your old chairman up in Sheffield Eagles, Ian Swire, who was praising the work that you'd done there. Was there any sort of anything that holding you back, or anything that maybe thought that London wasn't the place to go? Because it wasn't exactly an old sort of singing and dancing scenario when you were considering it, I bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I came into the job eyes wide open and fully understanding that circumstances at the club had not been great. But I believe in the club. I believe in that London is important for the game generally in terms of becoming more of a national sport. And yeah, the big attraction for me was the potential with the numbers playing the game down here, and the athletes that London tends to produce. As I say, we're getting more and more of these young kids playing the game now. So I think there's more potential here for this club than there is anywhere in the country. So yeah, despite the kind of off-the-field problems and the uncertainty at the time, the potential in the club has the reason for me wanting to take up the challenge.
Because it was a bit of a roll of a dice, wasn't it, for you? Because, I'm sure you could have carried on and carried on doing exceptional work at Sheffield, but you obviously fancied a shot at, like you say, developing all that potential that there is.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Really enjoyed 2 years at Sheffield, a fantastic club, and a club what's obviously on the way up, 2 back-to-back grand final wins and a thriving scholarship and an academy. So yeah, I kind of left Sheffield with a heavy heart. But yeah, the challenge for me, I know there's been some great work for the last 10, 15 years by Phil Jones and James Massara. So I know that there was a real good grounding, some good work done. But there's also been a time where the post had been vacant as well. So that it's enabling me to put my own stance on things and change some things as well. But yeah, just a very, very appealing job, and the opportunity to work in a full-time Super League environment, that's something what certainly appealed to me.
And how much are the academy enjoying playing at Underhill? You mentioned the possibility of switching the training away from Feltham and bringing that round to northwest London. But how have the team found not having to travel to Hemel? It's hardly very far when you consider some of the distances they travel. But are they enjoying that sort of being, I guess, feeling more part of the Broncos?
Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. The lads feel a lot more part of the club now. And it's nice to have a base and somewhere, they can see us home. We've done some training sessions here at Barnet just to help in terms of that transition. But yeah, the players are really enjoying the environment. It's a good setting for academy football. And yeah, as I say, in terms of it being connected closer to the club, the first team and staff, we're certainly reaping the benefits from that.
And you mentioned before a good win at the weekend against Hull KR. How much importance or how much should we take from these performances of the youngsters against these other academies? Because I guess from week to week, they go and perform at various different places. Can we look at this and think, in a few years' time, these players could develop to go on and compete at Super League, in a similar scoreline, in a similar way? Or is it not quite that simplistic?
No, it's not always that simplistic, but I think any under-19s team that goes to OKR and puts on nearly 50 points, it's certainly a sign that there's massive potential and there's a lot of ability in that side, and that is the case with our boys. We've had some academy rugby tends to change week to week in terms of players available, maybe moving up to first team, for example. But yeah, there's certainly some potential in our under-19s. We've got a number of the lads who are already in the full-time environment, and some are being identified as potentially moving up to the first team squad from next year. So, yeah, I do think we've got a strong 19 side. That kind of the ability has been evident in patches since I've been in posting in the last 3-4 games, but we've not put an 80-minute performance together, and that's what we've talked about to the lads. That's the challenge. If they want to move up to that next level, they need to be consistent and putting back-to-back efforts and standards throughout an 80-minute game, and that's what they've done at the weekend. And again, we've reaped the rewards. And
are you enjoying it personally? Enjoying your time with Broncos?
Yeah, really enjoying the post. It's a fantastic club, a lot of good people. Everybody made me feel really welcome, and that's the same for the local community clubs, the London Junior League. I think it's a real close-knit kind of rugby league community in London. Obviously different challenges to the northern clubs and northern leagues, but yeah, absolutely enjoying the post, and 2 months into it now, starting to feel a bit more on top of things. Because the post have been vacant for 6 months, there are a lot of things to chase up and get on top of, but we're getting there now, and yeah, really looking forward to moving things forward.
Darren Higgins, then the new head of youth performance for London Broncos. Interesting to hear his thoughts on what he's going to do in the future. And, he's talking about the future in the club and next year, next season. I think that people have been worried about potentially what may happen next year, but all the plans are being put in place for the club to continue in their existence. I've heard of contracts and things like that. So nothing official yet, we've heard. But for I think I was going to say for some time, I think all the time, there's always been the plan for 2015, and I don't see why that should change, and all things are being put in place for next year. And you'd have thought they'd have a plan A and a plan B. As of yet, still to put some questions to the new general manager at the Broncos, but hopefully we'll get that in the podcast in a week or 2 or 3's time, whenever we can nail it down. Omari Caro, of course, saw on Twitter. Good to see my 2 good mates, Mike Bichet and Olsi Krasniki today, said after the game. Mates for life, yeah? Had a good chat with them. Nice to know. And in fact, I'm going to write a blog on the survival hopes of London Broncos. Just noticed a few more notes in my script here that I've missed. So I'm hoping to write a blog on Tumblr. So you can, if you just go to Tumblr and search for Ian Ramsdale, or find it in my Twitter feed, you can head to there and see my see my blog. I'm trying to get my website redesigned, which hopefully will then house all the things. So you get podcast on there, you get the blog, you get everything, including some pantomime scripts if that's what you're looking for. But yes, hopefully do that very soon. But for now, head to Tumblr and you'll find my blog there. Next week we'll have hopefully some Broncos first team interviews for you. On Sunday, I went up to Hemel for Hemel Stags against Oxford Rugby League. My first game at Pennine Way. First time I've seen the roof that they've had put over their stand. I saw the stand once it'd been put in, but not since the roof has been installed to protect us from the rain. Thankfully, no rain on Sunday, so I stood pitch side to watch, and unfortunately did get there late. I was sure it was a 3 o'clock kickoff, so tried to watch the Monaco Grand Prix, then jumped in the car, picked up David Ballheimer, a fellow journalist, and we scooted up to up to Pennine Way and arrived there at just gone 3 o'clock, about 3:05. So we missed the start of the game. Well, no, we hadn't. We'd missed 35 minutes and Hemel were leading 6-0. It was a 20 points nil half-time lead, doing this from memory. And then second half, Oxford with a bit of a comeback, but a few tries from Hemel Stags as well meant that it got rather nervy at the end, with Oxford looking like they could have drawn level or snicked it, but it was a victory for Hemel Stags. And looking at a couple of tweets that I had at Ian Ramsdale, one from Anthony saying, glad it was a decent game. Oxford RL is progressing very well. I hope we can continue to push the sport down here. Anthony, thanks for that. If you want to send your tweets, you can tweet at Ian Ramsdale. I encourage the use of hashtag RLDS, which stands for Rugby League Down South, so always good to see people using that. And as ever, email as well, rldownsouth@gmail.com if you fancy a more considered view sent via email. But like I say, the game I saw on Sunday ended in a narrow win for Hemel. Afterwards I caught up with their boss, the Stags coach, Troy Perkins. Troy got a bit nervous towards the end there, didn't it?
Oh, I did, yeah. After a great first half, I think it was probably one of the best halves of football we played all year. But then a pretty poor second half. Oxford are a decent team, and we knew that even out to a 20-point lead that we needed to keep our minds on the job the second half, and unfortunately we didn't. And to our credit, we dug deep and hung on there at the end when we were under the pump, but we made it a lot harder than it needed to be.
It's very windy here as well today. I mean, it's the first time I've seen a game here. Is it always windy up on Pennine Way?
A lot of the time, yeah. So it's
not easy to contend with.
No, it's not. But yeah, I mean, it's a massive advantage, the wind, and we played it well in the first half. They played it well in the second half, but just conceding some soft tries. I mean, we conceded a couple from dummy half, and they're inexcusable, really. But to their credit, they fought back, and to our credit, we managed to hold on. So it was a decent game, but probably a few too many errors from us in the second half.
I must confess, I thought it was a 3 o'clock kickoff, so I missed the first, probably the best bit of your first half.
Yeah, missed the best part, but you missed a good half, but we've tried to change a few things. We've got a few halfbacks out injured at the minute, so we've changed the makeup of the team and their roles, and worked really well in the first half. I thought I was a genius, but then it didn't work so good in the second half, and wasn't so much the attack that was the problem, was the defence and how poor it was, and just some basic errors, give them the ball back in key areas, and as I said, a win's a win, and Oxford are a decent team, so to maintain fourth position is what we want to do today, and we've done that.
I guess the season's bedding down now, isn't it? I mean, how are you sort of progressing from last year, and how do you sort of assess your performance so far in the season?
Yeah, I think as a group we're improving. I mean, we went to. Disappointed we didn't get a result against Scholars. I felt if we held on to the ball a bit better, we controlled that game massively, and in my opinion should have won quite comfortably, but we didn't. We made too many mistakes. But that's the thing. We're walking away from that game really annoyed that we didn't get a win. And 18 months ago we weren't even in this league. So to be walking away from games like Scholars, disappointed we didn't get a win. York, we led them with 8 minutes to go away, and two really silly mistakes from us got them back in the game, and obviously helped them win the game. So as a team we're progressing really well, and we're matching the big teams, but there's still that bit of inconsistency in our game, and playing for 80 minutes, and that's something that we're struggling with. I know we're fit enough and we've got the skill level, but we're just dropping the intensity and we're switching off at different times of the game. But overall, I think we've improved as a team. We've brought in some more experienced players this year. But what's killed us, I mean, we signed 2 Aussies and they both ruled out for the season. In key areas, one was a fullback standoff, and one was a hooker loose forward. So one's played 4 games, one's played 5, and they're gone for the season. So that's
Although you're not doing too badly considering.
Yeah, no, we're doing all right. But I mean, you can't help injuries; they happen. But to key areas, to key positions is is a massive blow. But we just move on and deal with it. And as I said, we've changed our game plan a little bit and changed people in different positions. And yeah, it's building. But a really important month for us now. Today Gateshead at home, and then Oldham, and we can win 2 or 3 of them games, and it sets us up all right for the second half of the season.
I looked up and saw Carl Tomata in the stands here today, former Broncos man, a guy I guess you've been talking to because one of his limo players currently playing with you. How's he going?
Yeah, he's going all right. He arrived Tuesday and fitted in really well. His English is okay, and
your French is all right, though, as
well.
Yeah,
my French is all right. So it works well. If he doesn't understand what I'm saying in English, I can put it in French for him and vice versa. But yeah, Carl Tomata coached him in Limoux and he had good things to say about him. I think Carl was more here to watch Oxford. I think there could be something happening there. I know that he's moved back to London and there are a couple of southern clubs chasing him. But yeah, so I think it was more him watching his potential team rather than his former protege. But we'll wait and see what happens there.
That's Troy with plenty to work on over the next few weeks, but they're doing well, are Hemel. And spotted in the stands at Pennine Way was former London Broncos prop, Carl Tomata. He's been coaching in France, hasn't he, with Limoux Grizzlies, but now back living in London, living down in southwest London. And while I was there, I thought I'd have a chat with him to catch up on what's happening, see how his year in France went, see how he's getting on, and potentially there were some stories around that he could be playing in this country very soon. Carl, well, just seen cracking game in Championship 1. It's very tough and physical out there at this level, isn't it?
Yeah, it looks like it at the moment. Close game, 26-30. Hemel, the home team, did well.
What about you? You've been over in France, haven't you, coaching the Limoux Grizzlies? How's it been?
Yeah, it was a good year. I learned a lot. We started off really well, and just unfortunately the last couple of months didn't finish as well as we would have liked. But good experience, and I'm better for it.
How's it been coaching?
Very, very different. I was player and coach, so I was a very busy man, but I enjoyed it. No regrets, and yeah.
What's the level like over there?
I think probably the top 4-5 teams would be Championship, I reckon. So we're very close. Yeah.
And what are you hoping to stay out there? Are you going to carry on playing?
I think I'm getting married this year, so I'll probably stay in England for now. Yeah.
Are you going to play?
Maybe. Still considering a few options with Oxford and a couple other teams. Yeah.
A couple of your lads as well that you've had with Limoux this year. One of them playing with Hemel, I think, and one with Broncos at the moment. What are they like?
Yeah, I sort of noticed there's a lot of talent over there, and some of them are keen to get overseas and go to higher levels, and I've encouraged them. Romain's one of them. He's a young guy, 19. And another guy, Maxime Herold's gone to the Broncos for trial, and I think they've got a future. Just need to be in the professional environment and have the training and benefit of that, which the guys in England get. And France is just starting to come to that, but it's only the Catalans really that are professional, so yeah, it'll be good for them.
And is it a winter season that they play over there? So they've just come to the end of their season, so
Yeah,
they get a bit of experience over the summer here.
Yeah, that's right. They start mid-September and finish May. The finals are in May, so it's mostly winter. But obviously, their winter in the south's a bit milder than England. But yeah, they can pretty much go straight to the season here, through to the French season if they want to.
And how's the knees as well? Because I know there was a couple of problems in your final few years with Broncos, wasn't there? They're holding up all right?
No, I had 2 seasons without any problems, so touch wood, those years are behind me.
And you obviously you're still fit and healthy. You obviously play a coach. You look good.
Yeah. I had about a month off now, but yeah, I'm still ticking along, mate.
So that's Carl Tomata, former London Broncos prop, and it sounds like he may well be venturing into Championship 1 over the next few weeks. So the prospect of him playing at Oxford maybe kept cropping up. Well, by the time I spoke to the Oxford Rugby League coach Tony Benson, it was pretty clear that that was the plan. So I thought it's the best way to start as I spoke to the Oxford Rugby League head coach Tony Benson. Can we start with this one then, Tony? I've just had a chat with Carl Tomato. Is he going to be on your roster possibly in the future?
I hope so. Yeah, he's Carl and I go way back. Coached him in New Zealand, so I've been in touch with him while he's in France. Just anyway, and I've caught up for a few beers through the time, and he promised me that he'd come and have a run. So I'm holding him to it now.
And he's just been coaching as well. Has he been seeing things from your side?
Yeah, exactly, and he'll come in with a coaching role and assist myself and Marty. On the coaching front as well as playing. So, he's got a lot to offer. We've got a very inexperienced team, and, they've got lots of enthusiasm and energy, as you probably saw today, but just need a bit more direction, and that's the man to do it.
You mentioned that inexperience, though. I mean, it got nervy towards the end of a Hemel because you were pushing as hard as you could.
Yeah, but it was inexperience in the first half that we were in that position. We should have dominated the game right through, like we did in the second half, and not have to fight back. We just lost the plot and played some other game that I don't know about, and paid the consequences in the first half. And once we got back to our own game in the second half, I think we were much more effective.
How's it going with Oxford this year? How are you feeling? The season must be sort of settling down now.
Yeah, fantastic. Things that excite me are the fact we put out that 7 teams last week. And in 18 months, that's not a bad effort. We played with 13 local kids. Today was even more. So that excites me. That's. And I think I spoke to you about that some time ago. That's what we're going to do, and the plan's working. I think there's some good talent there, and they're learning quickly and enjoying themselves, which is what it's all about.
And not only all these people coming through, they're giving a good team in Championship 1 this year a very close game.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, well, we should have won it. I'm just really disappointed, and I know they will be too, because we would have jumped them in the table then and been a couple of points up on them. But we're going to have to fight hard next week against Hunslet, see if we can get some points there.
How do you take a defeat like this? Because you've got an inexperienced side. It's a close game. You obviously want to, and you think you could have won. I mean, can you go and sort of lay into them, or is it more of a gently approach to make sure they can continue the development and learn from it?
No, because the mistakes been made before, the same mistakes. So yeah, I'd lay into them. Half time I wasn't happy at all, because they're just repeating old mistakes. It's a mindset, and it's jumping from amateur or rugby union to playing rugby league at this level. But we're getting there. It's getting closer every week, and that's one that got away. It should have been a win. We came here to win, and I thought we would have. So I'm bitterly disappointed and quite frustrated in the first half, but proud and happy with the second half. We just should have come away with it.
And what do you think of Championship 1 this year? I mean, it seems like those teams that came in last year have really progressed and move on, and you've got, possibly a couple of sides that are a bit powerful, a bit stronger, but everyone else really fighting away.
Yeah, I think so. And, I stand by what I said before, that we didn't want to go dual reg or bring players in from north if we can get by with the numbers we've got, which we're doing. That was our last 17 available today. Valu had to go 18th man, and he couldn't have played if he had to, so it would have been down to 16. So we're sort of pushing numbers at the moment, but we've got an unusual injury sort of list, unusually sized injury list. But I think I'm hopeful most of those will be back over the next couple of weeks. So like these other clubs up north in that situation, I mean, they've probably got bigger squads anyway, but they can just call in dual reg players, and so they stay more consistent without having to put the extra effort into games like this. So the games like this take it out of you for the next week sometimes, because players have to play above themselves week in, week out, and it's a bit hard to do. If you throw in 2 or 3 dual reg, things can change for you. But I'm happy, and with Carl Tomato joining us now, that's one more, because I did lose a prop and a hooker today.
And how much attention do you throw forward to next year? I mean, midway through the season is usually when people start thinking about it, and particularly next year, I mean, it's going to look so different again, isn't it? 5 teams coming down from the Championship. Yeah,
it's ever changing. I mean, we've always got an eye on next year. We've always got an eye on the next 5 years. As a club, and as a developing club, that's really important. Right today is not so important, not as important as this time next year. Really in the big picture. But we'll fight hard week in, week out, and keep these guys improving. And most of all, I think the most important thing is that they're enjoying playing much better than what they did before, so they don't go back to it, they stay with us, and I think we've achieved that. They're a tight group, they're enjoying each other, so I think it's looking good for Oxford at the moment.
Always good to chat with Tony. First time I've seen him in probably just over a season, actually. We've spoken a few times over the phone, but good to catch him in person. Smile on his face, never mind the result, which is why I sort of asked him about how they treat the players at that point. But yes, he's doing good stuff and he's enjoying what Oxford Rugby League are doing. We'll hear more about that in just a second. But one of the tweets from Oxford on Sunday saying, "Big shout to all the travelling Oxford Rugby League fans. You made the difference in the second half." They certainly did. Very noisy. When they scored the first try of the game, which I did see because I was there for that one in the second half. Huge roar from the crowd. It was great to see so many people travelling with Oxford Rugby League. And the All Golds tweeting myself at Ian Ramsdale saying, "Great news for Rugby League development. The All Golds nearly upset Oldham only days after 450 attend our community festival. #RLDS. That was great to see as well. Saw a photograph of, like they say, 450 at a community festival in Gloucestershire. Absolutely wonderful to see. And the All Golds not doing too badly themselves this year. If I'm right, if they haven't won this year, they've always got a bonus point. So they've always been there and thereabouts, doing very, very well. A couple of other tweets as well, which I mentioned, which I saw during the week. I thought I'd mention from at London RL, who obviously oversee the game down in the south. The semi-final draw for the South East Cup is as follows: Weald Warriors against Medway Dragons, and USPS versus the Spitfires. They also said the semi-finals of the GAMT, which I think is the Gordon Anderson Memorial Trophy, the Gordon Anderton Memorial Trophy is as follows: West Warriors versus Scholars A, and St Albans versus South West London Chargers. And then finally for this programme, while I was at the game on Sunday, knowing that obviously the All Golds have had their festival, and knowing that the week before Oxford had a number of games where they'd had a number of teams show or turn out, so I managed to grab a chat with the Oxford Rugby League Managing Director.
I'm Adrian Smith and I'm the Managing Director of Oxford Rugby League.
Tell me about last week then. How many teams, how many people did you have playing?
Last week was monumental for Oxford as a rugby club and Oxfordshire and Rugby League as a stance as a whole in the last 18 months, because in that time period we managed to get 80 players out, none of them doubling up. That's from our first team, and Oxford under-19s for the very first time against an experienced South Wales under-19s, and they did great credit to the club and themselves. And that's from the colleges around Oxford, and then also in the Cavaliers and the other reserve team that played as well. Results weren't important. It was the matter that people were out there and playing. There were some positive results and some great action out there, and everyone did tremendously for Rugby League and for Oxford.
It's probably right to say that this has been building, or this is what you have been building up to over the last sort of year, 18 months, because the idea was to get the game localised and to get those local people playing with as many teams as possible.
Absolutely, that's one of the boxes we want to tick. Our mission is to bring Rugby League to Oxfordshire and the surrounding area. And that's the goal. And for that to survive, the long-term plan, that has to happen. Now, we've achieved it once, we've got to achieve it again and again and make that happen. And it was important that those under-19s enjoyed it, and they did, so that they'll come back and play it. They brought the family and the parents down, they enjoyed it down at Iffley, and we're trying to get some of those games as curtain raisers to the first team as well. So more people that are playing that spreads the word. I do think we're a best kept secret is mine saying about us. People see that, come down and enjoy it. It's a great experience at Iffley, and then I think they'll return and come back to it. It's a great family day out down there.
I think a well-kept secret is probably applicable to most Southern Rugby League teams, isn't it?
It is. I mean, today's a great example of it. I mean, all credit to Hemel. Give them 20 points and they took it. They now have to work a smaller pitch. I think at Iffley we may have got round the outsides of them a little bit more, but for us guys to dig deep and pull it right back to within 2 points, 6 points, and at the end of it down there, it's a great game to it all. And it's you can't predict it. It can go one way or the other, and that's what crowds are enjoying. And I've just spoken to some of our fans now. They're not disappointed. They're really pleased that they made the effort and how the players played for them.
You brought a coach load of them, didn't you?
We brought, it's a minibus full of them, and absolutely fervent fans. They love it. They're really behind us. They help out where they can and when they can, and The lads have heard them today, and I thought we heard them in the ground, and it lifted them in that second half, and it does mean something to them.
I was going to say, it sounded like a coach load when you got that first try.
It is, yes. There's some very deep voices out there, and they think that the fact we call them Iffley thrillers. They go down to the wire the last 5-10 minutes, and they do make a difference when you hear them out there to get the lads over that whitewash. So. That makes it more pleasurable for us, that what we're trying to do, and rewarding for us, and the volunteers that give the time up for it all to make it happen. So, and it's a good product we're producing, and the other teams around it, it's a good product for people to come and see.
And you mentioned that localising as well, you know, the local players that you've had playing, but also your first team now featuring many local players.
The first team is more predominantly, we've got 4 northern lads that are in there, and 2 of those lads are about moving down. So that was the plan. That's another box we want to tick. We haven't got dual registered. We're against that in there. That why would you give other lads players that they'll just disappear if you do it. So opportunities have come into for them, and they're responding. You can't give it to those players. They've got to earn it, and they've got to gain that experience. It's you just can't put someone in there and reap the reward instantly. It's the thing that you have to nurture and grow, and those lads have grown, and they've shown it with some of the results this season.
And just as a matter of interest for you personally, how did you end up getting involved with Oxford RL and this setup?
Ambushed, really, I think is the word. By,
is that like everyone?
Yes, by a couple of friends. Tony Colquitt's a good friend, and I've known him for many years. Tony Benson's a really old friend, and we used to play together. I recommended Tony to Tony, and then them two ambushed me and said, get yourself involved in down here. So that's it. I'm a mad rugby league fan, always have been. So
and you couldn't say no?
I can't say no, not to them two anyway. Yeah.
That's the Managing Director of Oxford Rugby League. Great to chat about all the things that are happening. Tony Benson as well, mentioning the teams that they had playing the week before. So yeah, I thought it was good time to chat with them all, and good to round up what's happening in Oxford. And next week we'll, I don't know, maybe concentrate on another championship one side. We've done a bit about the All Goals, done a bit about the Scholars the last couple of weeks. But in particular, actually, I should mention this now. Very important Scholars interview coming up for you next week on the programme. I have already recorded it, in fact, and it's an interesting story. It's worth hearing, and I thought I would not ram it into this programme and throw ahead to it. You may well see me mention a few things on Twitter over the next week, but an interesting Scholars interview to come in 7 days' time on the podcast, as well as hopefully some other stuff as well, which is in the pipeline and planning. But thank you once again for listening. Always good to get your downloads. The figures are not doing too bad at the moment, considering. So thank you for your support, and there'll be another programme next week. I'll hopefully have you download it then. Thank you.